Okay, I want to start off by giving all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakah Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who teacheth the Bible in 100% truth. And shalom to the hopeful elects of the 12 tribes of Israel. You have the 144,000, the nation of Israel, consisting of the Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans in the land of the Americas, as well as the speckled bird, the Israelite foreigners living amongst other nations. Shalom to you. Okay, today I'm looking at the crucifixion of Yahweh Shai, the one the world ignorantly calls Jesus, the Messiah, the Son, only begotten Son of the Most High Yahweh. Looking at the crucifixion, I was going to go into the topic of the if you like, the bloodline of Herod the Great, and eventually you have Herod. Through that family line, you have these are Edomites, and they eventually you have Herod, is it Antipas, with which became king of Judea at the time of Yahushai's birth. And the reason why I was going to go into that is because on the previous video spoke about the time of when Yahushai was alive, maybe just a little bit after that, and I was explaining, when you look into these articles, you'll see I really don't want to use the words, but you got JEWISH or JEWS, or you had the word Christians, based around say roughly 2,000 years ago. And when you're reading in those times, you read of these particular groups of people, and what I was explaining was that Christians, what are labelled as, say, Christians 2,000 years ago, Christians meaning the true believers, they were Israelites like ourselves that believed on Yahweh Shai. At the time I was talking of, he had come and gone, but they believed that he was the Messiah. Then I explained you had Israelites which didn't believe on the Messiah, but I didn't mention the Edomites. There were, for example, using Herod the Great, and the people through his line. Eventually you had Herod Antipas became the king of Judea, and these were pretty much Edomites, converts to what they refer to as Judaism, and so that's what I was going to go into then, and I wanted to mention it because obviously if you've watched the last video and then you were unaware, I wanted to go into that today, but I'm not going to. I had the idea, I started to delve deep. You can see I got a few pages, and then the Spirit abruptly directed me, so I was going to go into, because obviously thinking of that subject, along the lines of leading you down into Revelation chapter 12. You have Herod spoken of in there. When Yahushua was born, he went out to slew, I think it was all the male children under the age of 1 or 2. And so, through that bloodline of Herod the Great, you ended up with Herod Antipas at that time. So I was going to go into that, and then, but it's obviously linked with Yahushua going on the cross, because it says the same Herod Antipas that eventually delivered Yahushua to the Romans, to Pilate. And from there, I kind of got, I was kind of going in, and I just, the Spirit kind of just ripped me out of that zone and just put me into the situation of the crucifix. So it's kind of connected, obviously. The Herod dynasty have a part to play, obviously, in the crucifixion of Yahushai. But I thought, okay, when I do the video, I'll merge the two, but the Spirit's just telling me to just leave that and go on to the crucifixion. But if you did watch the last video, now you understand. Roughly 2,000 years ago, you read in these articles, you see JEWISH, S or Jewish, or you have Christians, 3 groups, and then you have Israelites that believed on Yahushai, Israelites that didn't, and you had Edomites, which were practicing, if you like, customs and so on and so forth. But yeah, the crucifixion, I wanted to look at that because of the events that happened at that time. And I gone into it about 2 months ago around the solar eclipse, and I seen this particular article being branded about, and I think I used this particular article to make a point. And at the time there was something in the back of my mind saying that's not right, but I didn't really delve too deep. And like I say, obviously now I'm at the point, the Spirit just abruptly brought me back to that point, and so I'm going to look at it again properly, explain it, and you get a clear understanding of what's actually happening. Now, the title here was there a total solar eclipse when Jesus died? We know the name Jesus is wrong. The letter J was only 500 years old, so what was he called if there was no letter J 2,000 years ago? I'm not going to go into that now, but we know obviously that's speaking of Yahushai. This article is from Catholic Standard, and they're taking information from a study, and I've got the actual study here. But what I'll do is I'll quickly touch on it here briefly, just to sort of get the point of it, and then I'll look at that that longer version in a minute. Now, just reading the article here, this is what I believe it was this article that I had a couple of months ago, if not, it was a very similar one. So it says here, with the April 8th Great North American Eclipse, the question arises, was there a total solar eclipse when Yahushua died? It says here in Luke 23:44-45, says the New American Bible Revised Edition pretty much says it was now about noon, and darkness came over the whole land until 3 p.m. So I'm not going to read. They give you all these different versions. I'll go to the KJV in a minute. They're giving you, the Revised Standard Version, Catholic Edition, the New Testament translation approved by the U.S. Conference. The sun stopped shining. The sun's light fell. We're talking of at the time when Yahushua was crucified on the cross. So I'm not reading that one. These are just different examples. Scientists say a solar eclipse was impossible. We'll go to the scriptures in a minute and look at it. But I just want to sort of revise the reason why I'm sort of doing this lesson. So scientists say a solar eclipse was impossible because the maximum duration of solar eclipse is 7 minutes and 32 seconds, not 3 hours. And when you go to you could go to Matthew chapter 27, Matthew chapter 23, and you're reading about the same event, the time when the crucifixion happened. Now, again, I'm not going to read the whole chapters just for the sake of time. Obviously, if you're following the truth, then these are chapters you've probably already gone through. And if you're new, then obviously you should go through these chapters because they're like kind of the basics, and then obviously you learn a whole lot. But we're talking of the time Yahushua was on the cross. And it says here, Matthew 27:45, and now from the 6th hour there was darkness over all the land unto the 9th hour. This is when Yahushua was on the cross. And now about the 9th hour, Yahushua cried out with a loud voice, saying, Alaya, Alaya, is it Lama Sabachthani? Sorry if I pronounced that wrong. This is to say, my power, why hast thou forsaken me? So some of them that stood there, when they heard that said, this man called for Elijah. It says, and straight away one of them ran and took a sponge and filled it with vinegar and put it on a reed and gave it to him to drink. It says, the rest said, let us see whether Elias will come to save him. Yahushua, when he had cried again with a loud voice, yielded up the ghost. And behold, the veil of the temple was rent in twain from the top to the bottom, and the earth did quake, and the rocks rent, and the graves were opened, and many bodies of the saints which slept arose, and came out of the graves after his resurrection, and went into the holy city, and appeared unto many. So, just to looking at Yahushua on the cross, looking at events that were taking place while he was on the cross. It said it was from the 6th hour to the 9th hour, so we know that is, they would start that, in those times they would start counting from 6 o'clock, 6 a.m. What you may call sunrise. So the 6th hour is midday, the 9th hour is 3 p.m. It's quite common knowledge, just, Christians, even Christians get that, so it's got to be easy to understand. So we know Yahushua is on the cross. There was darkness for 3 hours. Midday, definitely in the daytime, to 3 p.m. Definitely in the daytime zone. And then obviously, it goes on to say here, behold, the veil of the temple was rent in twain, in two, from the top to the bottom. The earth did quake. Graves were opened. Many bodies of the saints which slept arose, and appeared unto many. And we know this event took place also on the Passover. The Passover, the Passover would have been the night before, the evening before, and the day in which Yahushua was on the cross actually started when the sun went down, the previous evening. So, the 14th day of the first month, we know that's Passover. So when the sun goes down on the 14th day, when the 14th day the sun goes down into the 15th day, now that's your Passover. So you'll see the sun go down, then you see a full moon. The full moon represents the middle of the month. At the beginning of the month, you have a new moon, which is when you can't see the moon. The next day, a moon appears. That's the new moon. It builds up in size over the course of the month. It gets to the 14th, 15th day, then it becomes a full moon. And after that, it starts to reduce down in size until the end of the month. It then disappears. New month. So that's a lunar cycle. It's quite easy to understand. And we know this event took place in the morning, the day. We're talking midday. So all these events pretty much took place the morning after the Passover meal, which had to have been, I'm not going to go to it, but you go into the scriptures, obviously it's going to show you straight after the Passover meal. We know that's the 14th day of the month, the middle of the month, full moon. You can also go to Luke 23, which is what they quoted in the article. It says in the sun, let's get rid of this. Go up 1:23:44 Luke, and it was about the 6th hour, and there was darkness over all the earth until the 9th hour. It says, and the sun was darkened, and the veil of the temple was rent in the midst. It says, and Yahushua cried with a loud voice, and he said, Father, into thy hands I command my spirit. And having said thus, he gave up the ghost. Now, I'm not going to go deeper. I'm just trying to extract exactly the facts we need. So Yahushua is on the cross. We know the sun. When you go back to Matthew 27, you go back to what was said. It said there was darkness was cast. Here in Luke 23, that darkness is obviously cast is coming from the sun being darkened, as it says here. There was an earthquake, and dead bodies arose out of the ground. Now we're concentrating really on the darkness. For 3 hours, there was darkness for 3 hours, and we're also concentrating on the full moon, middle of the month, Passover, full moon. This is the two things we really want to extract and work this out. And so, like I say, I just mentioned all those things, but really you want to remember that it's a full moon, Passover, guaranteed. Scriptures totally back that, and the scriptures totally back the fact that from midday to 3 p.m. there was darkness when Yahushua, was on the cross. And so going back to this article now, so you say, well, darkness, solar eclipse, blah, 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 so on and so forth. And then you have to look at the details, look at it and work out. And it can get a bit confusing, and this is what I'm trying to do here at the minute, is clarify. So going back to this article, they're quoting these scriptures, Luke, is it Luke 43? 23, sorry, 44, 45. So it says here, scientists say a solar eclipse was impossible. But didn't we just read that there was darkness over the land, the sun was darkened, a shadow was cast over the land for 3 hours, from midday to 3 p.m. Midday is the middle of the day. Whenever you've seen a midday and it's not daylight, you've never seen that. So, but scientists say a solar eclipse was impossible. These are scientists, right? Scientists, people like NASA, well-paid money, lots of money, lots of stature within the industry and so on and so forth. It says, as scientists say, a solar eclipse was impossible because the maximum duration of a solar eclipse is 7 minutes and 32 seconds, not 3 hours. Okay, sounds plausible, but we're going to have to look into this further. It says, of course, in Isaiah 45 and 12, the Most High declares, it was my hands that stretched out the heavens, and I commanded all their hosts. Some scientists and scholars also propose a different phenomena. According to NASA, Christian texts mention that the moon turned to blood after Yahushua's crucifixion, potentially referring to a lunar eclipse during which the moon makes a reddish hue. So they're now saying that the Christian texts also say that there was a blood moon, a lunar eclipse at the after the crucifixion. Crucifixion was in the day, and the moon would have shown up in the evening. It says, during which the moon takes a reddish hue. Using this textual source, scholars narrowed down a possible date of crucifixion to Friday, April 3rd, AD 33, because a lunar eclipse occurred that day. The academics in question are Colin Humphreys of the University of Cambridge and W.G. Waddington of the University of Oxford, who in 1990 stated in Nature magazine, we have suggested that the most probable date for the crucifixion was on 3rd of April in AD 33, in part basing our claim to a lunar eclipse visible from Jerusalem. So they mentioned the sun going dark. They mentioned, these Christian texts that state, there was a blood moon, so on and so forth. They've done their little calculations. They've given you a number. Nobody knows, nobody out here, apart from the people behind the secret closed doors, know whether they just threw a number up in the air or whether they actually, did some real mathematical calculations. So then you think to yourself, well, I want to know more of what you're saying, because even when they say you're on a blood moon at the crucifixion, well, I want to know, where they're coming from with that. And I went into this article before, and I kind of went with it, and I think I touched on it. I think I was probably talking more about the solar eclipse in April, and then probably touched on this. But without actually looking into it further, I'm going to look into it further now. So this is the full article. I'll leave the links in the description box or in the comment board. And it's pretty much those two guys, and let me just get their names again. So you got, where is it? Academics. These are academics, yeah. Colin Humphreys of the University of Cambridge and W.G. Waddington of the University of Oxford. So they sound like smart guys, high in stature, well paid, and people take these professionals take their word seriously. We do that ourselves. We look at ancient artifacts. We look at these Edomites. They've put together these what do you call them? The translations of ancient Greek, and they give us the translations of the ancient Paleo-Hebrew languages and so on and so forth. So we do rely we go to them for the want of all things. So we rely on them for information and stuff, but obviously sometimes they're going to lie, they're going to slip things in, they're going to make things up, or with science they like to presume. And so you're reading that article there, you'd presume, okay, yeah, makes sense. These Christian texts, they blah blah blah. Lunar eclipse, but do we know what that actually means? Now, before I move into that, what are these Christian texts that support this blood moon? Now, in this article, they mentioned Joel, and we would use Joel in the times now. Joel said, I think it's chapter 2, it says something like the moon will be turned to blood before the great day of Yahweh Bashim Yavshai. So they're using that, and they're saying that basically that it could be the blood moon on the crucifixion, but the great day of the Lord is the return of Yahushua. We know that, and we use that to suggest that in the end times, right before the return, you're going to see signs in the skies. One of those will be blood moons, solar eclipse, so on and so forth. So I'm not too hot on that, but we're going to see what they say here. Also, what are these Christian texts that they have? It says here, there is some evidence that on the evening of the day of the crucifixion, the moon appeared like blood. The so-called report of Pilate, a New Testament apocryphal fragment, states Yahushua was delivered to him by Herod. So it's backing up pretty much what the scripture says. It says Archelaus, Philip, Annas, Caiaphas, and all the people. At his crucifixion, the sun was darkened. Okay, so they're backing up, what the scriptures are saying. The sun was darkened. The stars appeared, and in all the world, people lighted lamps from the 6th hour till evening, and as I say, the moon appeared like blood. So they're backing up what the scriptures say. It went dark. You got to realize, right? Yahushua being on the cross, obviously, he had to either side of him, malefactors. It's like a concert, and there's people out there they've come to see, and these top. You got a boxing match, and then you look around the edge of the ring, and you got all these famous dignitaries, Saudi royals, and you got Mayweather sitting there, and then you got some rapper, and you got this guy, then you got Cristiano Ronaldo sitting there, and you got all these famous people with a bit of money. That's in a way, a dignitary would be someone like a royal or a king or queen, president, but nowadays, obviously, with these celebrities, they kind of turn them into mini dignitaries, and to make these hierarchical, high sort of, like I say, high status people for us to look up to and follow and to want to be like. It's just a distraction tactic from actually watching the real people, the real dignitaries. But the event of the crucifixion, and this is big news. Some people who believe on Yahushua, you kind of go just to see, wow, is this really happening? And the people who really wanted it to happen, they'll go to see, wow, this is really happening. And then you've just got, you can imagine then what you have at an event where there's hundreds, I don't know how many people, but there's a masses of groups of people. What happens straight away? The guy who's got a little food stall, he brings out the food stall. The guy with the drink stand, he comes out, and then you have all these. You just end up with like a carnival, well, not a carnival, but I don't know. You could say like a fair, or you go somewhere to like a gathering. They do these these gatherings in the park for the community, and then they got a man on the mic speaking how he's going to fix up the community, and everybody's gathering around. They're all having something to eat and drink over there, and some the people are all gathering over here watching the man on the mic talk. It's that kind of thing, and that's why they're making they're documenting it. They had if Pilate wakes up and has a boring day, he's not going to document it. But obviously, if something major's happening, he's writing it all down. So it says here, there's some evidence on the evening of the day of the crucifixion that a moon appeared like blood. Oh yeah, sorry, yeah, we got that. But all the world, It says here, the stars appeared, and in all the world, because the stars appear when you can't see the light of the sun, right? You know, in the daytime, the stars are there, but you just can't see them because the light of the sun is just, you just can't see it. Obviously, when the light disappears, the stars are still there, but now you can see them because the other light is not overpowering them. So it says, the stars appeared, and in all the world, people lighted lamps for the 6 hour, from the 6 hour till evening. It says, the moon appeared like blood. So then in the evening, you know, the sun went down, they can see the stars, and now you can see the moon. And the moon was blood, and that is obviously, it's what's written here. It says, much of the New Testament Apocrypha consists of highly theatrical literature, which cannot be used as primary historical evidence. It says, Tertullian records that Pilate wrote a report of all the evening surroundings, surrounding the crucifixion, and sent this to Emperor Tiberius. From Apologeticus 5:21, Apologetius. It says here, the manuscript fragments that we possess of the report of Pilate are all of later dates, but may be partly based on this very early lost document. Remember, these, you know, the professor from Oxford and Cambridge, you know, they put this together, so this is like, you know, well thought out, well detailed, and we're going to see if we can break it down. It says, if this is the case, the report may provide independent evidence that the moon appeared like blood following the crucifixion. On the other hand, the report may have used Acts as a source and not be independent from it. If this is the case, however, the event described by Peter is clearly stated in the report to have occurred at the crucifixion. A third possibility is that so-called report is a late Christian forgery. If this is correct, there must have been a tradition that the crucifixion, the moon appeared like blood. Thus, whatever the literary status of the report of Pilate, the statement in it that at the crucifixion the moon appeared like blood had some significance. Further evidence is provided by Cyril of Alexandria, the Orthodox Patriarch of Alexandria, in AD 412. After stating that there was darkness at the crucifixion, he adds, something unusual occurred about the circular rotation of the moon, so that it even seemed to be turned into blood, and notes that the prophet Joel foretold such signs. So again, they're going back to that Joel, you know, the moon will be turned to blood before the great day of the Lord, which I don't think that really applies to this day. But you know, they saw it, they quoted it. You got Pilate, you got Cyril, everybody's saying it. It is concluded that the report of Pilate and the words of Cyril may be used as secondary supporting evidence that the moon appeared like blood on the evening of the crucifixion. It goes on to say the moon turning to blood is a graphic description of a lunar eclipse. The reason an eclipsed moon appears blood red is well known. Blah 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 blah. So these top scholars, these top scientists, this is what they've done. And then, you know, when you go back to the shortened version without having to read all that, you know, they conclude it in that, look, you know, what did it say? You know, scientists say a solar eclipse was impossible. Impossible. We're going to see how impossible it is. First of all, you've got to look at the term solar eclipse and lunar eclipse. When you use these terms, what do you mean? There's no point calling the cat the dog, because, you know, when the dog comes along, what are you going to call the dog if you've already called, you know, the cat the dog? So the word eclipsed, or eclipse, I'm going to use this one here. It says to deprive someone or something of significance or power. So you see, a couple of weeks back, you had Tyson Fury lost to Usyk, you know, however you say it, and basically he took his belts, took his title. So Tyson Fury was eclipsed. It says here he was deprived of significance and power, or power, significance or power. So, by going into the ring, beating him, taking his belts, ultimately he didn't take his physical strength, but he took his status away. So that is an example of an eclipse. Now these professors, they're throwing about the phrase solar eclipse, lunar eclipse, like it's nothing. They're going, so what do they say? Solar eclipse is impossible. And then they went on to show that, why there was a lunar eclipse and whatever things that back it. Okay, we're going to look at this one. Basic question: lunar eclipse versus solar eclipse. No, it's not this one. It's how to remember solar and lunar eclipse. It's very easy to understand. An easy way to remember the difference is in the name. The name tells you what gets darker when the eclipse happens. In a solar eclipse, the sun gets darker. In a lunar eclipse, the moon gets darker. And so in a solar eclipse, what happens? We just looked at the word eclipse. Solar is sun. Eclipse is deprived of significance or power. So that's what a solar eclipse is. So it don't matter how it happens. Doesn't matter, how long it lasts for. The fact that you have daylight in the middle of the day provided by the sun, if it gets blocked out by something, anything, whatever, for however long, the definition of the term that you would use is a solar eclipse, because the definition of that term means sun deprived of significance or power. Okay, so you can go into other details. We'll go into that in a minute. Oh, but the blood moon, the lunar eclipse, the Passover, we'll go into that in a minute. But if you're going to use the phrase solar eclipse and say it's impossible, but they even said in their article, I think it's Peter or Luke. I think that Luke was right, with the sun going dark. So they agreed to that. But then they say a solar eclipse is impossible. Solar eclipse means the sunlight deprived of significance or power. A lunar eclipse means the moon is deprived of significance or power. It says it here. In a solar eclipse, the sun gets darker. In a lunar eclipse, the moon gets darker. So, you got an ant, a little ant, and you pick him up, you put him on the table, and now you stand there and you block the whole light. Imagine that table was the earth, and you've just eclipsed the sun for the ant. If he's looking around on the table like it's the planet Earth, and he's going, damn, this thing's just got dark instantly. And that's because you've eclipsed the light. It's a solar eclipse to him. Now, obviously, to solar eclipse the whole land, you need to do it to the sun close up. Standing there, with your chest out ain't going to work. But by definition of the term, to have the sunlight blocked out, it is a solar eclipse. To have the light of the moon, the significance, the power blocked out is a lunar eclipse. You can't stand in the daytime, right, in midday, see the sun go dark, and then use the phrase lunar eclipse, because what you're saying is the moon deprived of light, but you can't. The moon's not even there. You're looking at the sun. So you're taking terminology from a different event and applying it to this event, as you're calling the cat the dog. And they're in the same category, but they're not. They're different. They're still different. But what about the Passover? So we know, I'm not even going to go too tough into the Passover. But what I am going to do is I'm going to jump to a couple of pictures. With the Passover, we know. I'm not going to sit there and just rake through it. We know it's at Eve, the 14th day of the first month. So I'm not going to sit there and go, is it really then? We know that. 14th day of the first month. So now we'll look at some pictures. Okay, so we jump over to the pictures. We're going to start off with this one. Now, what you're looking at are patterns of the solar system. And you look on the left, I forgot the name of the person who made the statement, but pretty much you're going back, roughly 500 years, and it was come out and told to us that the solar system operates in the way that you see on the left, with everything moving around the sun. We know we live in a pagan society. We know that they sun worshippers to a certain degree. So it wouldn't surprise you if that was a false statement that came out around the same time as Renaissance art. Renaissance meaning rebirth of the Edomite rule, and they came out, they committed iconoclasm and so on and so forth. So we don't know if that's part of that or not, but it's just something that you do need to know because science is based around theories. So when we're looking at these scientific evidence and information, we have to understand that a lot of the time they throw the word presumably or supposedly in there, where it doesn't actually make it a definite. But before I go into other pictures, looking on the left, you have what is called a heliocentric solar system, where what they believe today, you go to school, they teach you this, the planets are in this particular order, and we all rotate around the sun. And while the Earth is rotating around the sun, we have a moon around the Earth, which is going, orbiting the Earth in a circle. So you have the sun in the middle. You have the Earth circling it. One circle takes a year, and then throughout the year, the moon, which is around the Earth, spins around the Earth 12 times. And inside of that, you have then the Earth actually spins itself, and that takes 24 hours to do a turn. When you look on the right hand side, you have the geocentric solar system. I believe that's what it's called. They believed on this, I believe, going back, if you go back 500 years, then going back from there another 1500 years, they believed on this particular system. And I think this was first sort of written down, if you like, and shown to people through the Ptolemy Edomite rulers of ancient Egypt, Mizraim. And so they said that this is how the solar system works. What they're doing, they're looking up, Ptolemy was looking up, for example, seeing the stars rotate in a circle. He said, well, we're the Earth, we're in the middle, everything rotates in a perfect circle. And then he created a pattern which would align with how we see the planets. And then obviously 500 years ago, Edomites and more Edomites came along and said, no, actually it's this. Now, we don't know which one's true, we don't know which one's right or correct. When you look on the left, it does look a little bit simple, as if a human just designed it. And that's what Esau tries to do. He tries to answer everything, all these complex things of the Most High. He tries to box them into simple steps. So, we don't know if it's true, we don't know if it is true, but we are living in a pagan society, and they do worship the sun. So having the universe, the solar system, with the sun at the center, it's as if sun, everything we need is given to us by the sun. And that's what they tell you. They say, we're the perfect distance away from the sun, so that's why water can survive, but we have enough heat to heat us up, blah, blah, blah. We could have the system on the other hand side. What it is, when you look up in the sky, you see the sun, you see the stars. If you sit there day after day, you notice that they keep coming round in a perfect circle, so you think we're in the center. What they say now, with the heliocentric, the last 500 years, they say, no, we've got a different solar system. Well, then how come the stars keep going in a perfect circle? How come they don't change as we go around in the different circle? If we're in the center, we can see these stars turning. What they say nowadays is, we are far away from the stars and we are spinning around the sun. They do move, but because they're so far away, you can't see it. Sounds a little bit car salesman like. We don't know. One other thing I'd say is that on the right hand side, when you look at that solar system, it does kind of look like what they call the flower of life or the seed of life. Now, I didn't really go into that. I'm not going to go into that because that's, you go into, for example, ancient Egypt, they believed on that. The seed, I think it's a flower of life or something to do with geometrical symmetry within all cells and how life is able to blah blah blah. What it is, these things may be true, may be real, but why am I going to waste my time looking into these ancient customs to see how deep they've gone into these particular areas? I'll go to the ancient Egyptians, look at what they've done with the flower of life and look at it and understand it. No, I don't need to. I call on the Most High, Yahweh, Bahashim Yahushai. It's the top of the pyramid. It's the creator and controller of everything on this planet Earth. So you don't need to learn about these geometrical systems and blah, 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 and blah, 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 and whatever else. Don't need to know all that. It's a waste of my time. Just call on Yahweh, ask for what I need, and if it's His will, He will provide it. It's simple as that. But I just wanted to go into that quickly because when we look at these pictures, we're just basing it on the information we're given. We don't really know. Now back to the point of the video. Looking at the screen here, you can see a full moon diagram. So again, what I just showed you, you've got the sun, which is supposedly in the center, with the earth in the middle. We're going around the sun. Now, as you can see the earth in the middle, you can see where it says noon, sunset, midnight, and sunrise. Now, what happens is the earth is turning itself while it's circling the sun. So as we turn, we take a day to turn. One side of the planet faces the sun. 12 hours later, the other side of the planet is facing the sun. 12 hours later, the other side of the planet is facing the sun. And we're doing that at the same time as moving, if you like, sideways as a planet in this circle around the earth, around the sun, while we're facing it. One side of the earth faces it and the other side every 12 hours. And while that's happening, the moon then circles us 12 times in a year. Now when you look at it here, so when the moon circles us and it gets in between us and the sun, it becomes black. The reason why it's black is because the thing, supposedly, what they teach us, the thing that lit it up apparently was the reflection of the sun. But so now you've got the sun behind it. It's a new moon. And the reason why it's called a new moon, because you can't see a moon, and the next day there will be a new moon. This happens 12 times a year, if you didn't notice. A moon appears, grows in size over the course of the month. So this circular pattern that you're seeing around the earth with the moon, going from new moon to waxing crescent, first quarter, waxing gibbons, full moon, waning, last quarter, waning crescent. So when you're going in that circle, that takes a month. That's where the word moon comes from. It takes 1 month to travel 12 times a year. So 12 times a year, the moon's going to be in between us and the sun. We're looking up at it, can't see you, you're gone. Because obviously there's no light on it. And so when something disappears and something then reappears the next day, that's new. And so that signifies the new moon. So, when it's the middle of the month, 14th day at eve, start of the 15th day, a full moon. By that time, 14 days later, the moon has moved from its new moon position around to the back of the planet. And it's now showing a full moon. The reason why is because the light is coming from behind the earth. As we look at the moon, it's coming from behind us, shining onto the moon, creating a reflection. Okay, so there you have the new moon, full moon. Now remember, the scriptures tell us Yahushua was on the cross after the Passover, 14th day at eve, full moon. So looking at this, you have to understand that the position of the moon would have to be, according to scriptures, on the right hand side of the earth. As we look at it, the full moon, what you see there. Now, while the moon's over there in the full moon, look at the earth. Noon. Where's noon? Noon is facing the sun. Now that spot on the earth, wherever it is, 12 hours later it will rotate around to face the full moon, and the sun will be gone over there, and then it will be in the darkness, but they'll see the moon. They'll look up and they'll go, oh, there's the moon, and it's been lit up by the sun. And then 12 hours later, that same bit of land will rotate back round to face the sun, back to midday. And then now you look at this lunar eclipse. What did they say to these professors? They told you on this article, it's impossible. They used the word impossible. Impossible for a solar eclipse to take place. And what does the word solar eclipse mean? We just looked it up. Solar, sun, eclipse, deprived of significance or power. So remember this picture here we're looking at, this first one I just looked at. Where's noon? Noon's in the middle. Yahweh Shai's on the earth, on the cross, at noon. The sun is facing him, beaten down. And where's the full moon? Because we just had the Passover. It's on the back side of the planet. No chance of getting in the way of the sun. Yet the scriptures tell you it went dark for 3 hours. The sun going dark for 3 hours, is a solar eclipse. But the moon wasn't in a position to cause the solar eclipse. You can see on the top here, for the solar eclipse to occur normally, from what we expect, which is a key word, and we would expect the moon to get in the way, as you can see here. Now the moon to be in that position, in between the earth and the sun, on the top picture there, we go back, that's a new moon, no moon, 2 weeks before Passover. So now you start to see, you say, it's contradictory. Well, when the scientists say a solar eclipse is impossible, they're going according to the time. You look on the bottom picture, you see lunar eclipse. So you can't stand on earth in the face of the sun, see the sun disappear, and then say lunar eclipse. Lunar eclipse means moon, deprived of significance or power. Now Pilate said there was a red moon. We're gonna give Pilate the benefit of the doubt, and we're gonna trust him on this one. And we definitely know there was a full moon because it's Passover. It's undoubtedly, it's, you go through the scriptures. It's no one would even argue that. I couldn't find one person in the world that could actually try to even argue that Yahushua, had a meal, Passover meal, and then the next morning he's on the cross. So we know it was full moon, and we know Pilate told us, Mr. Pontius Pilate, he confirmed that it was a red moon, which happens on a lunar eclipse. So those scientists in that article, they're right. A lunar eclipse could have taken place, and for the lunar eclipse to take place, the moon would be in the same position, roughly, from where it needs to be to create a full moon. So it makes perfect sense, but you still can't ignore the fact that the sun went down. The next morning, the sun went down for 3 hours. Now the sun light getting blocked is a solar eclipse by definition of the term. Sun, significant deprivation of power. But, from what we understand as a solar system, it's not physically possible, because it would take, according to the solar system and how it moves and how we understand it, it would take 2 weeks for the moon to move around into that position to be able to block the sunlight. However, if that did happen at midday, 12 hours prior, at midnight, it would have to been on the other side of the planet to create its blood moon, to create its new full moon, for Pontius Pilate's statement to be accurate. So that's basically what you're reading of in the scriptures. How you want to define that? Well, personally, I believe that that it was the lunar eclipse, because obviously you have a statement from Pontius Pilate, and you have the full moon at Passover. We cannot deny that. So I totally, in 100% agreement with the scriptures, with Mr. Pontius Pilate, and what I'm seeing here on the diagram, that there was a full moon, the evening before the crucifixion. But I also know that the sun was darkened for 3 hours. Now, if it wasn't for, they say a solar eclipse can only happen for, and what is it, 7, hang on, let me go. Let's go back to it, lunar. Yeah, the maximum duration of an eclipse is 7 minutes and 32 seconds, not 3 hours. What they've done is they've phrased it wrong. The maximum duration of a solar eclipse caused by the moon can only last 7 minutes and 32 seconds. How about writing that? Because that's what really is the reality of it. So the sun was eclipsed for 3 hours. But now the question is, what did it? And we don't know. We don't have an answer. There's nothing in the solar system that will suggest it. But remember, we are dealing with, the Most High, Yahweh B'Hashem Yahweh Shai. In that case, in this particular instance, don't forget Yahweh Shai was on the cross. So whatever was happening, it was Yahweh's doing. Again, don't forget what the scriptures told us, that at the same moment when he gave up the ghost, the ground shook, dead spirits rose. The sun had been blocked out randomly for 3 hours in the day. That's not a normal occurrence. The lunar eclipse, the full moon they're regular occurrences. That's why we're going to give them the benefit of the doubt and say they definitely agreed. Obviously, the scriptures agree. But there was also darkness for 3 hours, and you just can't explain it by the moon causing the solar eclipse. Something else did it, and it was able to do it for 3 hours. Random, one-off occasion. Well, Yahweh can do that. Before I bounce into another scripture, I just want to quickly show you a working diagram. A lunar eclipse occur at the full moon phase, when Earth is positioned precisely between moon and the sun. Earth's shadow falls upon the surface of the moon, dimming it and sometimes turning the lunar surface a striking red over the course of a few hours. Each lunar eclipse is visible from half of the Earth. So I'm just going to play this just to see, so you kind of get a, we know there's a, we're going to say that there was a lunar eclipse because it was a full moon, and Mr. Pontius Pilate, we got that document, that statement from him, like a police written statement, signed, sealed. We're going to trust it. Now you look here, look how it's, just like I described, the moon grows through the month, and it gets to this part, and that's where you're also able to have a lunar eclipse. This is what you see on the ground. Disappears momentarily, turns blood red, disappears, boom, back to normal on the full moon. And we know that because it was Passover. But we also know there was a solar eclipse the morning after, because the sun was eclipsed by something for 3 hours. We just don't know what caused it. And they're just showing, and you notice again, like I say, in the middle the Earth is rotating, so part of the Earth is facing the sun. 12 hours prior, say, it would have been facing the moon, the other side, as it spins. So you get, then every night you get to see, what moon have we got today? You spin around again 24 hours, what moon have we got today? And it's pretty much that. Just letting this thing finish off. So yeah, you see a working image. So you have a one-off random situation where you Yahweh. Normally we say Yahweh B'Hashem Yahushai. In this moment I would say Yahweh, because Yahushai was on the cross, and we know his definite location at that time when this was happening. He was on the cross, so he was doing his thing. He wasn't really in the spirit to be out there and altering the elements. He was giving up the ghost. So obviously it's whatever happened, we'll put it down to Yahweh and making something happen. I'm going to jump to Psalms 121. Okay, Psalms 121. It doesn't say, but I believe this is King David. It says, "The Lord, the keeper of Israel." Psalms 121 and 1. "I will lift up my eyes unto the hills, from whence cometh my help." I don't know about you, but you may do this, you may not, but what I find myself doing a lot of the time, if I see a window or I'm walking down the street, I tend to find myself looking at the skyline. You're not going to walk around like a lemon, with your face directly looking up into the sky. And people, everyone that walks past you is thinking, "What's he looking at?" But you find yourself, like I find myself a lot, always looking into the distant skyline. You see buildings, you see trees, you see hills, and you tend to look. Well, I tend to look to just above it, and then you see the sky, and you straight away you're reminded there's a Most High. Look, there's a big window in the sky. He can see everything. He's there. Yahweh B'Hashem Yahushai. And that's what I like about this. It says, "I will lift up my eyes unto the hills, from whence cometh my help." Now, obviously, he's probably referring to, cavalry. Here comes the cavalry, they're going to come charging over the hill. Or chariots, and come, swooping over the hill. It says, "My help cometh from Yahweh, which made heaven and earth. He will not suffer thy foot to be moved. He that keepeth thee will not slumber." It says, "Behold, he that keepeth Israel shall neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord Yahweh," all capitals, "Yahweh is thy keeper. Yahweh is thy shade upon thy right hand." As this is, "The sun shall not smite thee by day, nor the moon by night." Now, going back to the crucifixion, we have to be in agreement that it was a full moon. We have to be in agreement, according to Pontius Pilate, that there was a lunar eclipse. But then, that would make the moon on the wrong side of the orbit completely, complete opposite, not even close, opposite end of the orbit, to be able to create a solar eclipse. So, we know according to the scriptures, something happened, with the sun. It was blocked, it was darkened. We don't know how. We don't have any written evidence of what actually caused it. But it says here, "Yahweh is thy keeper. Yahweh is thy shade upon thy right hand. The sun shall not smite thee by day, nor the moon by night." Now that refers to you going into the kingdom of heaven. You are the children of Israel. You're Yahushai's people. Yahushai is of Yahweh. So this is the line, and this is the people it's speaking of. Going into the kingdom of heaven. At the minute, you're starting to receive shade. You get this truth. You can call them on the name Yahweh, B'Hashem Yahushai. They may choose to help you, they may not. But you're starting to get close to the shade. Once the kingdom of heaven, is established, that is the shade. Children of Israel will be born into that kingdom. Those that don't make it from this side, and when they're born, immediately they'll just be born into shade. Everything will be nice, comfortable, and there'll be no stress. And it says here, "The sun shall not smite thee by day, nor the moon by night." So the only reason why you get to have that opportunity to go into the kingdom of heaven, to have that shade, because at the minute, I say, you're starting to get a bit of shade, but we're out here in the heat, and you're suffering from these curses. Even myself, I had to struggle last month. I've had this problem with these people like falsely accusing me and then I've had it's been going on for 6 months, and then 6 months after that, the last 6 months, is just affecting me financially. I earn money in 3 different places, and I do that to make ends meet. So at the minute I'm going through this situation where I've lost one of my incomes in the last 5 months or so because of these false accusations. Believe it or not, one of these people, it's called Bilal, and I believe when you take that back, he's Arab. You take that back to the Paleo Hebrew. What you get? You get the worthless one. So, I know it's a kind of a test. But, we go through these tests, and so at the minute, I'm comfortable, got somewhere to live, I've got a wife, everything's cool, got food, but I'm kind of financially in straits. So, we go through these problems every day. You go through your particular problems, you go through problems with your wife, your children, and I'm lucky enough, I get to live with my child and see her grow up. Some of you out there can't do that. And there's all sorts of problems that could go on all day, health problems with the police, getting jacked up, can't find work. This is the sun smiting you. By day, you're out there in the heat, just getting licked, looking for shade. There's no shade out here under the curses. The curses do not provide shade. But obviously, the kingdom of heaven, will be that shade. So you can only have that shade because Yahweh Shai went on the cross. He did that for you, and the Most High made him do that. Remember he said if there's a way, any other way. There's no other way. He had to do that according to prophecy. That's what Yahweh wanted him to do. So, what you reading of at the crucifixion, you're reading of, like I say, it goes back to lunar eclipse, full moon. The moon could be in the position for those two to occur. But some sort of solar eclipse also occurred on the other side of the planet. Within close proximity, the moon wouldn't have caused that solar eclipse. I believe that's a one-off. There's a few one-offs that Yahweh will do, and that's one of them. He did that for his only begotten son directly. That was a favor he did for him directly and nobody else. And then people witnessed it, and then on top of that, he did it because Yahushua was doing it for you to get the shade. So he gave him shade. Have you ever been to the Middle East? You get off the plane, and if you're I'm from Northern Hemisphere, I'm from the UK, so I'm used to damp, moist, whatever. The air's thick. You go out there, the air's thin, it's dry. So you get off the plane, you can't even. You think, where's the air? Is the air going into my mouth? And then you're out there in the middle of the day, 40, 45 degrees centigrade in the middle of the day. The sun is beating the floor, and so you then think, to be hung up out there, in that heat, you'd literally feel your skin burning. After half an hour, 45 minutes, I've never, I don't wear what they call it, sun cream and all that shit. Go to hot places, and everybody's walking around with their tops off. I'm always the guy with my t-shirt on. There's nothing wrong with me. I don't mind the heat. Don't mind chilies and all that. Eating chilies, I'll eat chilies all day. It's nothing to me. But you then think, fucking hell, man, to sit on that cross in that heat. After 45 minutes out there in the Middle East, an hour, you'll start feeling it. That your skin will start to tingle. You'll start to say, fuck, I need to get out of this. Get in the shade. But midday to 3 o'clock is the hottest part of the day. And he did it so that you could receive shade. So, Yahweh gave him shade. How he did it, we can't answer that. Did he use a chariot to go out there and block the sun? Did he maneuver? Don't forget, Cyril of Alexandria said, he saw some funny circular movements of the moon. We don't really know what he meant. Was that to do with the lunar eclipse, which we believe definitely occurred? Was it to do with the full moon, which definitely occurred? But, did the Most High move the moon around real quick and then move it back over there? We don't know. But he definitely provided shade for Yahweh Shai. And just to finish off, it says, Yahweh shall preserve thee from all evil. He shall preserve thy soul. And even though, you see what happened to Yahweh Shai? They did all that to him, slapped him up, spat on him, hung him up, crown of thorns, all that. And his soul was preserved, and that's what you can get. Your soul is preserved. If he hadn't done that, and then these Edomites were allowed to just run amok on you Israelites, you wouldn't even be here no more. He would have just done away with us. But he's done that. That creates a salvation. Now there's a reason to go into Kingdom of Heaven and to come in and actually establish that. So, this is what these Edomites don't want. It says, Yahweh shall preserve thy going out and thy coming in from this time forth and even forevermore. So, that obviously forevermore. You're going to get a shade forevermore once the Kingdom of Heaven starts. So Yahushua only needed the shade for 3 hours, just to help. And that's what Yahweh provided. The bottom line is the scriptures tell you he provided it. You just can't answer it by saying, what caused it. You say the moon caused it, definitely not, because the moon was on the other side of the thing, unless the Most High, moved it out of its position and moved it back. So just quickly before I go, this is Joshua. This is Joshua chapter 10. I'm just thinking where I was gonna. Yeah, I was just gonna start because there's a lot of like names and places and this that, and if you're new, obviously for you to understand, I think I'll start at the top. I'm just gonna read the first 15 verses. So just for you to be able to, if you're new, to kind of understand the scenario. It says here, 5 kings attack Gibeon. Joshua 10:1 says, now it came to pass, and this is when Adonizek, and forgive me if I pronounce all these some of these names wrong. The job is to communicate it, so hopefully I can get that to do that. But it says when Adonizek, king of Jerusalem, had heard now, Joshua had taken Ai. And so, whenever you hear me say, you don't want the Hebrew Israelites to come around calling on Yahweh Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, it's within the, how can I put it? The inspiration comes from basically this, from, Joshua tearing it up. These people didn't want it. These people didn't want it with Hebrew Israelites in these times. You're out there now, Hebrew Israelites get treated like shit, like scum. Spoken to like shit, given shit jobs, shit wages, and then they chuck you in the back of the police car at any given opportunity. You got the Edomite does something, they let him go home. You've done it, back of the police car. Waste 24 hours in the police station, whatever. In these days, it was the opposite, and that's this is coming back. You don't want the Hebrew Israelites to come around calling on Yahweh Bahashim, Yahweh Shai. It's going to be real bad. It says here, now it came to pass when Adonizek, king of Jerusalem, had heard how Joshua had taken Ai and had utterly destroyed it, as he had done to Jericho and her king. So he had done to Ai and her king, and how the inhabitants of Gibeon had made peace with Israel and were among them, because Gibeon heard, they were like, we don't want these Hebrew Israelites to come around calling on Yahweh Bahashim, Yahweh Shai. We better make peace on them first. They knew this. They knew that. It says, Joshua 10:2, that they feared greatly because Gibeon was a great city, as one of the royal cities, and because it was greater than Ai, and all the men thereof were mighty, whereof Adonizedek, king of Jerusalem, sent unto Huam, king of Hebron, and unto Piram, king of Jarmuth, and unto Japhia, king of Lachish, and unto Debir, king of Eglon, saying, so this, Adonizedek has, he's like, damn, this Joshua, he's done that, he's done doing this, and now he obviously went on to make friends with Gibeon. So then Adonizedek, king of Jerusalem, has called for the king of Hebron, king of Jarmuth, king of Lachish, king of Eglon, come up unto me and help me, that we may smite Gibeon, for it had made peace with Joshua and with the children of Israel. So, Gibeon are like, shit, Joshua's on a rampage, we better, make friends with them. But then obviously, the others are getting together going, well, boy, they've smited us. We stop this partnership happening with Gibeon, because they don't want, obviously, Gibeon to roll with the Israelites. It's a problem for them. And so for it had made peace with Joshua and with the children of Israel. Therefore the 5 kings of the Amorites, the king of Jerusalem, the king of Hebron, the king of Jarmuth, the king of Lachish, the king of Eglon, gathered themselves together and went up, and all their hosts, and encamped before Gibeon, and made war against it. And the men of Gibeon sent unto Joshua to the camp of Gilgal, saying, Slack not thy hand for thy servants. Come up to us quickly, and save us, and help us. For all the kings of the Amorites that dwell in the mountains are gathered together against us. Call Joshua. You don't want the Hebrew Israelites to come around calling on Yahweh B'Hashem Hawashai. And that's what these other kings were trying to do. Get in there, before they really cemented their partnership. It says, so Joshua ascended to Gilgal, he and all the people of war with him, and all the mighty men of valor. You don't want the Hebrew Israelites to come around calling on Yahweh B'Hashem Hawashai. I had to just off that verse alone. It says, and Yahweh said unto Joshua, fear them not, for I have delivered them into thine hand, and there shall be not a man of them stand before thee. So the battle's already run before he even arrived. And Joshua therefore came unto them suddenly, and went up from Gilgal all night. Now before I continue reading, I just want to switch to this map really quickly. If you're new, you're trying to understand. I've just read through a whole bunch of names of places, different kings, and it's not difficult to find out what's who they are and what it all means. Sometimes when you see a visual, it helps. So I just read through that particular part of the story, and you look at this map now. I went to Google, typed in map of the land of Canaan, which is what the Holy Land was called in the time of Joshua. And that's literally what I put in, map of the land of Canaan in the time of Joshua. And so I was presented with something like this, and it even shows you the route. You can see the arrows coming through. So you've got Abel Shittim down near the Red Sea. The Dead Sea. I always do that, confuse that. But you have Abel Shittim, and then you go into Gilgal, Jericho, and Ai. And so we just read that part of the story, and then the next step of the process was Gibeon. And then you had Adoni-Zedek that wanted to get the other kings against against Gibeon in order to stop them having an alliance with the Israelites. So Gibeon were they saw what was happening. They saw what happened to Gilgal, Jericho, and Ai, and that's why they were pretty much ready to play ball with Joshua. But when you're reading through it, you can think, okay, there's what's this, what's that, and then you look at a picture like this, and all of a sudden, what you're reading makes perfect sense. The king Adoni-Zedek, apologies, I mean to say Adoni-Zedek. I keep saying Adon. It's Adoni-Zedek. I'm not dyslexic. I read the words, I understand where the letters are. You probably hear it a lot with me when even if I say a famous phrase from the world. I tend to mix the words, but the worst, I'll do it again. See the worst. I mean the first word last, and the last word fast. I do it all the time when I'm speaking fast. I'm from London. This is what we grew up in London, so you speak fast. Everybody's speaking fast. And then you tend to just throw out words quickly without really checking it. But obviously, never been in a situation where you're presenting the information to people and it's that vital. But obviously, when you're teaching someone or you're spreading information like this, then it's vital really to get the correct names and spellings, pronunciations right, because you can push people into the right direction. But apologies, I keep saying it's Adoni-Zedek. He is actually a Canaanite, so you could look up the actual kings themselves, see what nationality they are. Canaanites are known as Ham, the nation of Ham. From Noah you had Japheth, Ham, and Shem. Ham, some people say Ham, and that is the Canaanites. The Canaanites are of that nation. Modern day, that particular nation, you would call those people Africans. However, in the modern day, also confusingly, a lot of Israelites get called Africans because they don't have their own, they don't know their own identity, and that's why they're simple. They think, well, I've got Afro hair, I look like the African man, I must be African. Well, before the nation of Edom came along at the same time as the nation of Israel, you got to realize that all nations on earth had some sort of color, some sort of brown skin, different shades. So since then you've had the nation of Edom. You now have this, what they called so-called white. It's a completely contrasting appearance in terms of skin color to the other nations. And then obviously through there, eventually you have iconoclasm, so on and so forth. Now you live in a world where that they've created and designed, and it almost seems as if you're the minority. But when you actually check it, there's more nations which have different shades of brown skin to them. So in the modern day, not knowing your identity, you like I say, some modern day Israelites are simple. They just look at it as, well, you're African, I look like you, I've got Afro hair, so I must be African. But these people don't speak the language. You show them the customs that it doesn't entice them. The African food. Have you tried African food? Have you smelt it? Have you seen it? I mean, I used to hang around a lot of tower blocks when I was young, and you'd go up onto the balcony, you walk down, each floor, you can go to each row of houses or flats on the tower block, and when the African family's cooking on the tower block, because the whole tower block will stink out of that African food. And then you got these, for example, people in the Caribbean, they go, oh yeah, I'm from Africa. But it's like you're eating food which is decent. These people over here are eating dead food. You're going to try and claim ancestry from these people who have got no salt in them, the way they live their lives, the food, whatever. But you're trying to relate to people of no salt, but you are a people of salt. But yeah, back to Adoni-Zedek. He was a Canaanite, and it mentioned him as the king of Jerusalem. Now, at different times, for example, at the beginning I mentioned Herod Antipas. He was king of Judea. He was an Edomite. And then in a minute I'm going to mention Hezekiah. That's another king of Judea who is an Israelite. So you can look up the kings. You can look up what they are. Obviously it tells you where they're ruling. You can look those up and you can sort of piece it all together. It makes a lot of sense. A picture speaks 1,000 words. So yeah, I just wanted to bring that out, back to the scriptures. And Yahweh discomfited them before Israel and slew them with a great slaughter at Gibeon, and chased them along the way that goeth up to Beth-horon, and smote them to Azekah and unto Mekhadah. And it came to pass, as they fled from before Israel and were in the going down to Bethron, that Yahweh cast down great stones from heaven upon them to Azekah, and they died. It says here, they were more which died with hailstones than they whom the children of Israel slew with the sword. So the Most High is with them. They're chasing them out, and on top of that, the Most High started throwing down hailstones, and then the hailstones were doing more damage basically than the swords in terms of the numbers that were being killed. It says here, then spoke Joshua to Yahweh in the day when Yahweh delivered up the Amorites before the children of Israel. And he said in the sight of Israel, Sun, stand thou still upon Gibeon, and thou, moon, in the valley of Ajalon. And so, in when it says son, it's talking about the actual son, not the son of a father. It says, and the sun, that same sun shining in the sky, stood still, and the moon stayed until the people have avenged themselves upon their enemies. It's not this written in the book of Jasher? So the sun stood still in the midst of heaven and hastened not to go down about a whole day. And there was no day like that before it or after it, that Yahweh hearkened unto the voice of a man, for Yahweh fought for Israel. Joshua returned, and all Israel with him, unto the camp to Gilgal. So, within that particular battle, first of all, the hailstones came. That's a divine act, an act of God, as they call it. And then you had the sun stood still for a day. Now the sun should only be there for 12 hours. I live in the UK, so we got the time changes. In the winter we'll get like 8 hours a day sunlight. In the summer we're getting summer solstice. You're getting about 14 hours of sunlight. But you sort of break it down into the middle. You sort of say, well, there's roughly 12 hours a day, 12 hours of darkness. And don't forget, that's why they're calling it the first hour, the second hour, the 6th hour to the 9th hour, midday to 3 o'clock. So you're kind of on averaging, 12 hours light, 12 hours dark. Yet it says here that the sun stood still and the moon stayed until the people had avenged themselves upon their enemies. Is not this written in the book of Jasher? So the sun stood still in the midst of heaven and hastened not to go down about a whole day. And there was no day like it before it or after it, that Yahweh hearkened unto the voice of a man, for Yahweh fought for Israel. And so what it is no day like it, because A, had the sun stood still for a day, and B, obviously it was it was at the request of a man. It wasn't just the Most High just decided to do. Well, he did. Obviously, he made the decision, but it was at the request of Joshua. Now, you look at the day of the crucifixion. It's a similar event but different. The sun was blocked for 3 hours. We don't know what was used to do it. There was a solar eclipse. But obviously it's a different event to having the sun stand still for a whole 24 hours. So if the Most High wants to, you wake up in the morning, you look up in the sky, you see a beautiful blue sky. Yahweh can rip the blue out of that sky anytime he wants and put it straight back in. He can rip it out for 10 minutes and put it back in. And it's the same thing with the sun, the moon, all these things. Now, we're not used to seeing these things, these divine acts, but, we will be soon, because obviously a spirit will be put into certain men during the time of Jacob's trouble. And once we enter into the kingdom of heaven, seeing a man of the Most High spiritual powers is not going to be something that's alien to your thoughts. It's going to be a very common thing. But the minute we read about it, we go, oh my God, it doesn't really make sense. But we're here for the scriptures, and so we believe on the scriptures, and so the bottom line is whatever the scriptures say goes. It definitely was a Passover the night before Yahushua was on the cross, and the sun was definitely darkened for 3 hours the following morning. It's not possible to do that with the normal solar system as we understand it. But we are, we're dealing with the King of the Universe, Yahweh, Ba'ashim Yahushai. So you're dealing with a power that's limitless, infinite, and all knowledge. Just quickly before I go, so 2 Kings 20:6. Now where am I going to go? So this is pretty much just, coming off the back of that last precept. I'm just going to go through it really quickly. So, King Hezekiah he's not well. And it says here, 2 Kings 20:8, and Hezekiah said unto Isaiah, what shall be the sign of Yahweh will heal me? And Hezekiah being the king of Judea, he says, and that I shall go up into the house of Yahweh the third day. And Isaiah said, this sign shall thou have of Yahweh, that Yahweh will do the thing that he have spoken. Shall the shadow go forward 10 degrees or back 10 degrees? And Hezekiah answered, it is a light thing for the shadow to go down 10 degrees, nay, but let the shadow return backward 10 degrees. And Isaiah the prophet cried unto Yahweh, and he brought the shadow 10 degrees backwards, by which it had gone down in the dial of Ahaz. Sorry if I'm pronouncing wrong. So, let's talk about a sundial. Just briefly, I don't want to go into the whole chapter. Hezekiah, he's not well. He's talking to Isaiah, and ultimately, what happens is Hezekiah prays to the Most High. And then obviously through the prophet Isaiah, the Most High then says, look, because you prayed and you're lamenting, I'm going to increase your life, because he had basically a real short life expectancy at that point, and he's been told, look, I'm going to give you 15 more years because of your sorrow, the way your mournfulness. So obviously Isaiah spoke that, and then obviously he then received that healing, but during the process, as it says here. Maybe I should have started up a little bit further. I'm just thinking, hang on. So that's what it is. Hezekiah is asking Isaiah, what's the sign that he will heal me? So basically, what I'm trying to get at is, Hezekiah's prayed. He's asked for the forgiveness, sorrowfulness and such. So Isaiah's then spoken, look, the Most High is going to allow you to live another 15 years, but how do you prove it? And we're standing here now, and someone says to you, I'm speaking on behalf of the Most High, and you're going to have another 15 years. How do you know? You might drop dead down tomorrow. And what's the sign? And obviously Isaiah called on the Most High for a sign. Which way do you want the sundial to move? Do you want it to move 10 degrees forward or 10 degrees back? Hezekiah says, look, what's the point moving 10 degrees forward? Because the sun's moving forward anyway. Move it back 10 degrees. He called on the Most High. Isaiah did. It moved back 10 degrees. And that was to show Hezekiah, look, when Isaiah told you, you've got 15 more years, it's real. I'm Yahweh, and this is my man. So that's what what it's explaining there. Sorry if I botched it. I'm just trying to bounce through it real quick. And then Isaiah 38, pretty much the same thing. Isaiah 38 and 5, go and say to Hezekiah, thus saith Yahweh, the power of David thy father, I have heard thy prayer, I have seen thy tears, behold, I will add unto thy days 15 years. And I will deliver thee and the city out of the hand of the king of Assyria, and I will defend this city. And this shall be a sign unto thee from Yahweh, that Yahweh will do this thing that he has spoken. Behold, I will bring again the shadow of the degrees, which is gone down in the sundial of Ahaz, 10 degrees backwards, so the sun returned 10 degrees, by which degrees it was gone down. The writing of Hezekiah, the king of Judea, when he had been sick and was recovered of his sickness. And it goes on from there. So it's the Most High can do what he wants. He can move the sun 10 degrees back, 10 degrees up, 10 degrees down, 10 degrees wherever you want. And the Most High can rip the blue out of the sky, put it back in. He can block out the sun for 3 hours, and Oh, but there was a lunar eclipse, and yeah, and the moon was definitely on the other side of the planet, but his son was on the cross, so he can pull out whatever stop he wants to. You pull out all the stops. The Most High can pull just anything out to block that sun. He could literally turn it off, do whatever. We don't know. And you've got obviously the account of Joshua, so on and so forth. The sun standing still for a day. So you're dealing with the King of the Universe, Yahweh, and his only begotten Son, Yahweh Shai, who was on that cross. So I hope that's edifying. I'm gonna leave it right there. All praises to Yahweh, Bahashim Yahweh Shai, Bahashim Rakak Kwadash. And until next time, Shalom.